Stand by to the floor. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Coming to you live from the rich heartland of Altamont Springs, Florida, it's the Vic Show with Victor Bowers, brought to you by SuperChannel WACX TV. Take it away!
Greetings! Cheers, everyone! Cheers! And let's all rise to attention. Yes. Hello. Welcome to the Vic Show. Those are noisy. I'm Victor Bowers. Welcome to the Vic Show. And welcome to today. And the air conditioning's gone out in this room again, so I had to bring my fan on the set. I hope you don't mind if it blows around, because it's very hot. It's very hot and muggy in here. I wonder what the barometer. There's a humidity gauge behind Diane, and but nonetheless, we will not be thwarted in our efforts to preach and teach, and blab and chat and all that. It's a Vic Show. Everything is usable. Everything is redeemable. Everything is valuable. Even the nonsense, even the mistakes. Because that's what God does. And we are called to be like our Father God. And that's something I want to touch on today in a little teaching that I have prepared for you. A little delicious meal, hopefully. Maybe it won't be delicious to you, I don't know. But it's the best I got. It's all I got. So how are you, Diane?
I'm doing great.
Good. And we have a new visitor to the Vic Show production floor, Angie. Hello, there she is. She's usually sitting in the back. Who's sitting in the back now? In Angie's spot. Oh, Rente. Oh, hello. Rente. There. And there's Nathan right there, and there's Nick sitting in his chair. Rick sitting in his chair. Sorry, Nick. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, Vic Show. And this fan is very fancy. It has a lot of gadgets on it, but it's nice. But yeah, so when we're taping this show, this is a live production. Are we live? Are we on yet?
We're live.
Okay, we're live. Okay. It still boggles the mind, live TV. You don't know who's out there watching. But our coverage area for SuperChannel, WACX TV, is Central Florida, which is, for us, it's to the coast of Florida, the east coast of Florida, and then towards the west, towards Tampa. We do not get into Tampa as far as this main signal, but we have repeater stations and other contraptions and arrangements where we do get into those markets on the west coast, and then of course up to Ocala and Gainesville, and down south towards Lakeland as far as the coverage area. Nonetheless, Central Florida, we claim all of it, and you never know who's watching, or if no one's watching. Who knows? There are only 3 of us in the room here, so that's all I know. Those 2, and those few in the room on the other side of the wall, as we're standing in Altamont Springs, doing what we do, which is today we're working at a TV station and we're talking about God and Christ, and there will be others on the channel who will be doing basically the same thing. There will maybe be a few infomercials thrown in throughout the broadcast day, but for the most part, SuperChannel is a channel dedicated to broadcasting the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's a lot of other messages to be broadcast, and you can get them on all the other channels. There are messages about home and gardens, how to do your home. There are, I don't know what that is. It's just a vibration. Sorry, it's getting. Maybe it's my sweat glands warming up. And then there are other stations that will broadcast the message of news, and then there are other stations that will broadcast the message of sports, and then there are other stations that will broadcast the message of entertainment. There are other stations that will broadcast the message of selling you stuff, like QVC or HSN. Everything's out there. And here we sit on the dial, and we've chosen to broadcast the message of a man who is God and who is man. He's true God with manhood. And Jesus is his name. And that's what it's all about. And what's so special about him? Well, he lived as Jesus about 2,000 years ago in a place called Israel, Palestine today. The names have changed and they're still in contention. But he did some pretty unique things. The most unique is that he died. He was killed by the Romans. He died. He was crucified, as many other hundreds of people had been crucified throughout the ages, maybe thousands. But he was crucified, which meant certain death, because the Romans did not end crucifixion until all the criminals had ceased to live. So he died. He was dead. But then he did a weird thing. He resurrected. And so that's why we can't stop talking about this one person, is that this one person resurrected from the dead.
Come on.
Come on, that's right, resurrected from the dead. And so that's why we talk about him and go on and on and on. And we have been doing so for about 2,000 years now. And it doesn't seem to be stopping. The movement doesn't seem to be stopping. And so that's kind of what we're doing here today, here at the Christian TV station. So my prayer is that you're watching. And if you're hearing me talk to you, then that means you are watching, or at least gazing, or doing something. But you're there, and we're here. We're separated in physical space, but we're not separated in the Spirit. That's the beauty of the Holy Spirit, is that the great connector, and God, the Holy Spirit. Man, I'm going so deep so fast, maybe because maybe it's so hot in here. It's not really hot, I'm just exaggerating, being dramatic. But yeah, I installed, should I turn on the new machine or not? Is okay. Okay, we need a little bit of frivolity and distraction. I installed, because it got so much, it's something I did kind of on, the last week was kind of a curveball in the Vic Show. And we had Vacation Bible School, Vic Show VBS. And it came out of a conversation I had with some professionals that I thought the Vic Show was getting too much of the wrong image on social media. I thought people might construe the Vic Show as a kids program, because there were cartoons and there were puppy dogs and there were ice cream cones and there was laughter and frivolity and what seemed to look like nonsense if you just look at the imaging on social media. By the way, social media, official Vic Show, or really, actually forget that. Go to SuperChannel Orlando. And then if you want to go to official Vic Show, you can. On social media platforms, YouTube, you know them all. Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram are the ones we are on. And so I was talking to the social media consulting professionals and kind of complaining and just kind of give you some direction on how I want my imaging to be on social media. Because social media has images, you all know, and Instagram is constant feed of images. You just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. That's kind of the good and the bad of it. But nonetheless, we're on there, along with many other great ministries and great efforts. And I was saying, listen, I don't want the Vic Show to be construed as a kids program, because some of the imaging looks like puppets and happy faces and ice cream cones and puppy dogs. And there were no cats, just dogs. And this is a show about cats. Not about cats entirely, but cats predominantly, when it comes to animals. And cats and fiddle-playing frogs. Anyway, so, and I'm trying to stop saying the word anyway so much. I keep always trying to say the word anyway. But hold on. What's my point? My point is, I'm going to make a switch. Oh, I didn't want the Vic Show to be construed as just one big party and a kids show. And so in an effort to get away from that image, I installed a bubble machine to go along with the mirrored ball. Here we go. Ah, here we go. Look at them. Ah. Anybody want to pull out and show bigger shots? Okay. We have 5 cameras in here, maybe 7 or 8. Good touch. So no, this isn't a kids program. But it is a show with color and disco music and star curtains and it kind of feels like a nightclub. I kind of like it, right? There you go. I wasn't planning on dancing today because I'm kind of crabby. And it's so hot in here. I know I've said that. But you know, when you turn the bubble machine on, it just kind of starts coming out. Bubbles make you go with the flow, whether you like it or not. Happy bubbles. Happy days are here again. That's right. That's right. Oh yeah, come on, inflatable tube men. Get busy. Look at that. Of course, this isn't a kids program. I don't want anyone to construe that the Vic Show is about kids and children's programming, because it's not. This is fully adult programming. I mean, we're followed by Joyce Myers, for God's sakes, and Pat Robertson in the evening. There's nothing less childish than those two. They're wonderful. But so don't think the bubbles are about having fun or frivolity or that God doesn't like a party. Okay. Whew. Okay. I'm turning all this off because I'm getting thirsty. By the way, these bubbles, I can go. I know, look, it's like I'm ice skating now. That's a big health risk, FYI. 9:32, I know what we'll be doing. Oi. Okay. So, ladies, how are you feeling?
Good.
Warm, or is it okay?
Yeah, it's warm.
If you don't laugh too hard, it's still good, yeah. Rente's on the ball back there. Okay. Oh, wait, that belongs up here. But yeah, so the bubbles were a big hit. People made the most notice of the bubble machine last week on the shows where I was trying to explain that this is not a kids program by having bubbles and doing a VBS. The point in all this was that the Lord said, Victor, and he didn't say it directly. He didn't like say, this is the word of the Lord. It doesn't come to you like that. It comes to you in the way he built you. For me, it comes in images. It comes in someone saying something to me and a word pops out. Like yesterday, Arente said to me, right at the end of the day, passing in the hallway, Arente said, so do you know what you're going to be talking about tomorrow? And I was going into the bathroom. My mind was on something else. And I kind of gave him this look like, no, because I didn't. And then I was in the bathroom, washing my hands, because I had bubbles on him.
Preach it.
Preach it. And the word tomorrow stuck in my mind. I saw the word tomorrow as an image. The Lord was speaking to me. And he initiated it with another person who I am in relationship with. A guy named Orente, who I work with. It was a relationship that was already in place. There's an interaction in the hallway, coming and going, end of the day. You know, he was going home to his family, dealing with family issues and things that you deal with family, just normal stuff. I was going, cleaning up, doing my thing at the end of my day. He asked me something work-related. I gave him an answer that was honest, but maybe the attitude was wrong, but I was being honest about it. No, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Bug off. Go home. Forget about it. Leave me here to suffer alone. Let me enjoy my pity party. That's kind of how I felt. It has nothing to do with him. I was just like, oh, tomorrow the show and the air is going out. God, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I got to get on TV tomorrow and have something. I mean, you got 30 minutes of a show. You can't just get up here and fuss around with bubbles and puppets, even though I'd love to do that. Not really. I'd rather be talking about something of substance that's happening in the now, which this conversation is happening in the now. And so the Lord said, tomorrow. And it was a big image in my mind, the word tomorrow. And the word T, the letter T on the front of tomorrow popped out in Technicolor. T, tomorrow. And that image stuck with me in my head, in here, under all this. It was in there, tomorrow, T in Technicolor. And that was the hook. And from there I went home. And I got out my, no, it's not the Dake's Bible, what's the other one? Strong's Concordance. And I looked up the word tomorrow. There's nothing in Strong's Concordance with the word tomorrow. I'm like, I know the word tomorrow's in the Bible because Jesus has said the word. I'm like, okay, go to another source. I went to one of my big nerdy Bibles and looked up the word tomorrow. And the word tomorrow is most mentioned in an account in Luke, which is what we're going to go to right now. And it has to do with Jesus telling his people, don't worry about tomorrow. And I didn't know that today I would be talking about what was my tomorrow yesterday. Make sense? That sounds like Stephen Furtick. But, So anyway, Nathan, let's go to what I sent you about 30 minutes ago. And let's read it and see what Jesus has to say about not worrying about tomorrow, Rente. Don't you worry about tomorrow, bro. Because I'm not. I'm not worrying about it yet because I don't know what I'm going to worry about, but I am in stress. Then Jesus said to his disciples, therefore, he had been teaching, and he comes to a new topic. I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you're going to eat. Don't worry about your body, what you're going to put on, what clothes you will wear. Life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens, consider the crows, consider the vultures, for they neither sow nor reap, which have neither storehouse, they don't keep anything, they don't have a savings account, they don't have a 401k, they don't have any of that. They don't have food vouchers and coupons, and God feeds them. They never think about their next meal, they just eat when they need to eat. Of how much more value are you than these birds? And which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit, 1 foot, 1 inch to his stature? The answer being, none of you can. If you then are not able to do the least, which is grow an inch if you need to, why are you anxious for anything else? It has nothing to do with you. Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil, they don't spin, they don't worry. And yet I say to you, even Solomon, the greatest king, in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these little lilies. If then God so clothes the grass, which today is in the field and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O you of wee faith? And do not seek what you should eat or that what you should drink, nor have an anxious mind. For all these things the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knows that you need these things. But seek the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added to you. Nathan, let's go back to the second to the last page, because the hook and all this discourse are 2 words. Do not seek what you should eat, what you should drink. Don't be anxious. All these things, the rest of the world is seeking after all these things. And your Father knows that you need these things. Throughout this entire passage, Jesus has been referring to God. God watches the ravens. God watches the lilies. God saw Solomon and all of his splendor. Jesus is weaving this tapestry in front of them as in real time, saying, why are you going to worry about any of this? Nature doesn't worry about itself. The birds, they don't think about food. Have you ever noticed that? The squirrels, look around at the squirrels. They're busy being squirrels, doing squirrel things. Or look at the little lizards. The only thing they're busy at is watching each other and running from you. They don't think about their food. When they're hungry, They just eat. There's something there, and they eat it. They don't worry about it. They don't even have the capacity to worry about it because they have no concept of tomorrow, or they have no concept of lack. When they're hungry, they eat. They don't even know they're hungry. It's just part of what they do as a little creature. And more so, look at the flowers and look at the grass. It grows up, it's beautiful, it serves its purpose, then it's cut down and thrown in the fire. It gives no thought to anything like that. It's totally complete in itself. And God looks after all of it. None of it's by mistake. None of it's by chance. It's all in God's mind, happening when it needs to happen. But then Jesus pivots the conversation, and he changes the relational dynamic. It's no longer God to them. It's now your Father. See what Jesus is doing? His point is that God, maybe to his audience, which were first century Israelites, Jews who had been struggling for centuries under domination of foreign powers, who had lost their sense of identity as a nation. They had been beaten. At one time in their history, they learned about their slavery in Egypt and how God, by a mighty hand, brought them out, the Passover account, and grew them into a great nation. But now here they were enslaved again, but a different type of enslavement. No longer enslavement in a foreign land, taken off your land, but now a slave. In the first century, Israelites, Jesus included, they were enslaved on their own land. Their land was occupied by the Romans. And anything they did on that land, even though it was their land and they were still on it, everything had to go through the grip of the Romans. They were slaves in their own land. That's a worse kind of slavery, to be in the land that's yours, yet to have no control of it. It's one thing to be a slave in a foreign location. It's another thing to be a slave in your own house that you have paid for, and that has been in your family for generations. Mm-hmm. And then overnight, something changes, and now you are paying taxes on land that is yours, and you're paying taxes to a foreign entity. That's enslavement of a higher degree, and that's where all that they were. Who are we, is what they're saying. We have, Jesus, what are you talking about? Don't worry. Why do you use birds? Why do you use flowers? Why do you use these idyllic things? What's your point? We're hungry today. We have mouths to feed today, Jesus. And this God you talk about, yes, we learned about him in Torah school and we learned about him in Sunday school. But look around you, Jesus. Look at the world. Pandemic, and now it's coming in a new variant form. And even if you get a COVID shot, you may still get it. Jesus, what in the world? Where's your head, Jesus? I mean, come on, wake up, buddy. What is this? Are you sure God's on the throne? Maybe my college professors were right, and God really is just a figment of my imagination. Maybe it's just a big spaghetti monster in the sky. Maybe they are right. But this whole God thing. But Jesus, both of those conjunctions work. Says, listen, I get it. God's gotten a bad name because there's good and evil on the earth, and he doesn't control either one of them. He lets both good and evil be. Just like he intended in the garden, his plan never changed. But things are different now relationally. He's now wanting to be your father. He's always been your father. He was your father in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve were his children. And God was their father. They did not know that yet because there was no concept of that in their mind. But God created them as a parents create a child, out of the dust of the earth. And then Adam basically and figuratively gave birth to Eve. Came out of Adam, you know what I mean? Just kind of go with the storyline. So there was a family in the garden, but it was broken up because of distrust. They could not trust their father. And so here Jesus is, thousands of years later, telling the same story with different labels, different images, different illustrations. And he's saying, the God who takes care of the birds, which you see, the God who clothes the beautiful fields, which you see, the lilies, the grass, you see all those things. He's God doing all that. That's his business. But my friend, I'm here to tell you, Jesus is telling them, that God is your Father. Your Father sees you. He's no longer just God that you learned, this distant entity that you read about. But now I am here, Jesus is telling them, and Jesus is telling you through his written word and through the preaching of his message, that your Father sees these things and does know your pain. He does hear your cry. He does see your bank account and the valid needs that you have, that you need to get met. He sees all those things. He does see the health condition in your body. He does see the private, secret addiction that you struggle with. He does see all that lovingly. And he does not condemn. He does not point a finger. He comes close to draw you out, to pour into you. If he can clothe the lilies of the field, they don't need clothing, because their beauty, their natural beauty is clothing enough. He took care of them. If you can feed the birds, and Jesus uses an interesting, Jesus didn't say, look at the doves, or look at the, what's a beautiful bird? Look at the eagles. Jesus didn't use a big, mighty, beautiful bird. Jesus used the lowest of the birds. Today we'd call them vultures. He said ravens, but ravens are scavengers. A crow. A crow is a scavenger. It's an ugly bird. It's just black. Ravens are black. They're not pretty birds. They're just basic birds. They're scavengers. Vultures. They're all the same family. And Jesus is saying, if God takes care of the crows and the vultures, make sure they go to sleep in their little nests with full bellies every night, and he's glad to do it, how much more will your Father see your needs and take care of you? So don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't exist. Even in the mind of God, tomorrow doesn't exist. In the mind of God, only today exists. Tomorrow, if it happens, if it occurs, will come with its own set of problems and circumstances and things that you will address then. But you don't have the grace for that tomorrow. But you do have the grace for now. You do have the grace for today. Who are you going to trust today? Trust today for tomorrow. Don't trust today, or don't worry about tomorrow at expense of today. No, that's what we do though. And that causes a life of death and stress and just it's not a way to live. And yet the world lives like that. Jesus says, don't do what the world does. Don't live for tomorrow at the expense of right now. Trust today for tomorrow. But tomorrow is not the point. Today is the point. And Jesus says, today your Father sees you. God doesn't see you. Your Father sees you. Your Father. Your Father. Well, Victor, I have a father complex. Well, that's one of the things he'll take care of. If you have a father complex, that's probably a huge root of problems in your life, and he came to take care of that. And he will. Right now, just start receiving. Just let these words, just receive them as much as you can. Because with God the Father, all things are possible.